Welcome one and welcome all, I guess, to the greatest show of them all. It is the NFC East Mixtape, which you can listen to on any one of SB Nation's NFC East blog podcast networks. You can also watch us for whatever reason on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or the Blog and the Boys YouTube channel. I say us. We are the most narcissistic people in the world, and that bit us in the ass over Super Wild Card Weekend. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation. I am RJ Ochoa from Blog and the Boys. BLG, as the great cast of Chicago said, he had it coming. We are the he. We are frauds. We are trash.
I can tell you're not sounding very well, so I can only imagine you're sick.
I'm not sick. I don't mean this to be an ad, but I started a new thing going on for me. The day we're recording on Tuesday, every morning from 6 to 10 a.m. Central. I'm on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star in the morning, talking lots of things, including the Dallas Cowboys. So my voice is just a little stressed, but I'm not sick at all. Because apparently I just need to talk about the Cowboys more in my life. That's what I apparently deserve. Yeah, you were sick a little while ago. You seem better, right?
Yeah. I feel like that's been a bit now, but I appreciate it. Yes. What's important here, RJ, is that we are once again the NFC Least Mixtape, the only division not represented still in the NFL playoffs somehow, even though they sent two teams to the playoffs. Two teams that won 11 plus games somehow did not make it to the divisional round. One team had a home playoff game. I'm glad we get to talk about the division and division standing order this week because that's what I'm most excited to get to, honestly.
This is going to be a big Cowboys-Eagles, really kind of an only Cowboys-Eagles show. I mean, the Commanders do have a new general manager. What was the verbiage that was in the tweet you sent me?
Bizarre tweet. One of the best in the business.
Yeah.
I mean, for Commanders fans' sake, I hope that's true. I mean, maybe it will be true, but based on what now? What are we basing that on?
You're talking out of turn. I was just asking for the language.
It's just crazy.
I've gotten a lot of tweets this weekend, early part of the week, from people who were both excited and like dreadfully excited for the mixtape. Like I don't know like how we all feel. The meme that is often shared about like two fan bases uniting to like cheer on another, like when the Niners and Cowboys beat the Eagles back to back, weeks, like those two fan bases. This is like our two fan bases, like we both suck and we think you suck more than us, but we want to make sure that everyone knows that we think we suck, but we don't suck as much as you. Everyone is mad right now. Like everyone is angry, pissed off all the way around.
I think it's different. I think Eagles fans have been resigned to this team's fate, obviously
Also
for
getting
longer.
getting out of turn.
Whereas, well, I'm turning that into the difference for the Cowboys is much more shocking. And can we just get into it? Are you ready to talk about it?
I was just kind of setting the stage. Okay, so by the way, you sent me a tweet from friend of the show, Jimmy Kemsky, during the Monday night game. And I guess I misread it. I mean, maybe Jimmy said NFL, but I thought the tweet said that the NFC East was the only division not represented in the NFC playoffs. But you're right. It's literally the NFL playoffs. I don't know if that's what the tweet actually said. Like literally all other seven divisions are represented. It's unfathomable when you really think about it. But
both teams were favored. Both NFC East teams were favored to win their games.
I mean, it's just absurd. But anyway, okay, let's talk about it. The Dallas Cowboys lost in humiliating fashion on Sunday afternoon against the Green Bay Packers. They were 7-point favorites. They had won 16 games in a row at home. We've obviously talked about this a lot. Like we don't have to get to like the particulars of it. We're here for the like ramifications of it all, and for context because this could matter for either team here. We're recording this at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on Tuesday, January 16th. I mean, just never in the game. Like it wasn't like it was close and it got away from them. Like never in the game, never showed up. And they had, I think you would agree, even though you don't want to, they had built up an enormous amount of goodwill over the season. They had proven a lot of things that people have said about them in the past to not be true or to be silly or to just be dumb narratives. But they tore all that down. I mean, all they did was literally, I tweeted this at one point during the game. It was like they said, okay, what narratives can we just stress to like ruin our reputation? Like Dak Prescott threw interceptions. The narrative that he crumbles in big games is alive and well. The narrative that they're not prepared from a coaching standpoint, alive and well. The narrative that their defense is soft and just a bunch of front runners and pretenders, alive and well. They collapsed in the most embarrassing way possible. It was 27-0 at one point. And like I also mentioned this, like I used to think that it would be much better to get blown out than to like lose a heartbreaker every game. Totally wrong. I think I would rather lose the heartbreaker because having to sit in this was horrible. Like it was just an awful feeling, like to just accept fate slowly happening, like second by second, minute by minute. The third quarter and fourth quarter lasted forever. It's one of the people are asking and pondering, like, is it the worst playoff loss ever in Dallas Cowboys franchise history? It's one of the most humiliating moments the franchise has had in the 21st century. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
It was genuinely one of the joyous moments of this Eagles season because this Eagles season lacked a lot of just pure, unadulterated joy. Any kind of win that the Eagles had this year was, it came with an ugly win or whatever. This was just fantastic to watch. And the context, is absolutely key here. And like, short of getting the 1 seed, short of getting a first round bye, everything was here for the Cow. Like, this was it. Your roster was healthy. No one was hurt.
Not just that, because you're right. Not just that they were healthy, and not just that they had home field advantage, albeit at the very least through the divisional round had they gotten there. But Dak was playing at an incredible level. Like, like I thought, this is like an Eagles reference, but like if the Eagles had lost in the divisional round in 2017, would anybody have blamed them? No, because it would have been like, oh, well, the franchise quarterback got hurt. Like, what could you do?
Yeah.
But like, Dak was playing at an MVP level. Like you had maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like you were getting the best football from your best players. So it was more than just having the home field advantage and all those sorts of things. Like all the arrows pointed in one direction and you literally just crapped the bed.
They even got some favorable calls, I thought, in that game. Not like I'm saying the whole way through, but I'm like, that the horse collar that wasn't a horse collar. Like there's no excuse here. Is my point. Like there's nothing that they had to overcome. Yeah. Everything was there for them. No team had ever lost. How many times have we said on the podcast? It's very fitting that it happened finally, I guess, to one of the teams we cover. That a 7 seed had never won, been pointless, and not only had not won, a lot of those games weren't even competitive, honestly.
Right.
So for the Packers, and
look at the other one. Look at the Steelers-Bills game to that point. Like it was kind of close to the end, but like the Bills controlled that game like they should have, unlike the Cowboys, obviously.
And the Cowboys, I think you would say, like wanted the Packers as opposed to getting the Rams, having to see the Rams in that matchup. Like I said the record quarterbacks who hadn't never played a playoff game against experienced playoff starters were 15, 35, and 1 against the spread going into that game. Obviously, CJ Stroud had done that in Saturday, so not totally impossible. But there's every reason to believe the Cowboys should have, at the very, very least, been competitive in the game, if not outright won the game. And I mean, it really just cements, I think, what from an Eagles perspective, like it's not afraid of Mike McCarthy, not afraid of Dak Prescott, because they're good in the regular season. Maybe they'll beat the Eagles. Okay. But guess what? When it comes to the playoffs, it's not like, oh, we're so worried the Cowboys are going to go on this run. No, we're setting our watch to the fact that Mike McCarthy is going to blow it at some point. That team was not ready to play a playoff game. That is very embarrassing. Obviously, Dan Quinn was a big part of it, but so was McCarthy and the offense. And so was Dak Prescott, who, as I highlighted before the season, I said, RJ, interesting to me that he has the weakest winning percentage of any multi-game winner in the playoffs ever. His 2 combined opponents he beat were 18 and 15. And now he's 2-5 in 7 career playoff games. Out of 169 playoff quarterbacks who have at least won 1 game, only 7 have a worse winning percentage. Your boys Lamar and Kirk are in there, funny enough. So there you go. And what I've said before too is like, what's the precedent? What's the precedent for a playoff starting quarterback who hasn't been able to get it done in these big moments, like finally being able to get it done at some point? It's not really there.
So this was year 8 for Dak Prescott, obviously. And like, I'm just answering your question on the precedent. We had ESPN's Todd Archer on our show on Tuesday morning, and he brought up, I mean, Peyton Manning got it done in year 9. I mean, again, I'm not comparing the two. I'm just like answering the question. Matt Ryan reached the Super Bowl, had the MVP season in year 9. I believe Todd said the only other person to get to the Super Bowl after that was Ken Anderson of the Bengals in the 80s. So like there's not a large precedent to your point. Like it's happened before, but like it's
Yeah, it's
not
not
a common
impossible,
thing.
but it's not favorable.
Like I think some of the things that get said about Dak obviously are silly and whatever, but like he had every bit of control in his hand. Like I mean, like this was on him, and so it's hard to defend him right now. And I'll get to the particulars of that in a moment. But I did want to reference this. You'll enjoy it. Bob Sturm, the incredible Bob Sturm of the Ticket in Dallas, has a Substack, and everybody should subscribe to it. But this is from that. He tweeted it out on Tuesday. I'm reading it verbatim. This is also the fourth playoff game, talking about Dak, in his last 5 starts where he has failed to have even 90 yards passing in the first half. Against the Rams in 2018, he was 8 of 13 for 87 yards. They were down 20-7. This is all at halftime, obviously. Against the Niners, the first time in 2021 in the wild card round, 9 of 16, 89 yards. They were down 16-7. Last year in the divisional round, 12 of 16, 81 yards and 2 picks. They were down 9-6 at the half. That people forget that. Like that game feels like a bigger blowout in hindsight. But and then Sunday he was 13 of 21 for 87 yards and 2 interceptions. Obviously, one of them was the
pick six like ended the game. I thought the Cowboys were going to come back. I actually put a bet on them on the money line. Like, they're going to come back.
They were going to like make it a game. They were going to make it fun and interesting. At the very least, when it was 20.
That was the game.
No, I mean, and that was when that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And again, I mean, I think there's a lot of reason to believe in Dak, but like, how can you fight this? Like, and it all makes the regular season feel insignificant for the Cowboys. Cause it's like, how can you, I tweeted this out and a lot of people agreed with it, but like, how can you trust them? Like, how can you trust like anything they accomplish in the regular season ever? Because like they can literally have one of the best regular seasons of all time. And I'm not putting 2023 there for them, but I mean, you get my point. And they just pissed it all away. And they're stuck with Dak. I mean, like whether you think, not you, Brandon, but like you think he's the answer or not. And I keep saying this because I'm going to have to say it a million times over the offseason. He has a $60 million cap hit in 2023 in an offseason where they're going to have to pay CeeDee Lamb and they're going to have to pay Micah Parsons on top of whatever else they want to do. If they want to keep Tyron Smith, bring him back, or Stephon Gilmore, or I don't know, sign an external free agent. He has a no trade clause. So you can't people like get rid of him, trade him, whatever, blah, blah.
You can't.
Even, and then some people say, well, suck it up, just like deal with it and whatever. He has a no tag clause in 2025. So even if you do all that, you risk letting him walk for nothing. And I think even you would admit that like somebody would pay him in 2025.
Oh, yeah.
And then, people say like, oh, well, just go with Trey Lance. Trey Lance's 5th-year option has to be picked up. I know, even if it was, but it's not. But his 5th-year option has to be picked up this offseason. So you're talking about, like, I'm rounding here, but like approximately devoting $85 million in salary cap space to have Trey Lance around for the future. Like, it's not tenable. The $60 million isn't tenable. You can set your watch by it. He is going to become the highest paid player in NFL history at some point this offseason. It's inevitable. I mean, just again, these are the facts.
Yeah, it's the situation. It's not ideal. It's not an ideal situation. It's arguably, it's not quite the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is, you don't have any kind of franchise quarterback and no hopes of getting one. But to be in a spot where he plays well enough to, be in MVP conversation and then justify that kind of contract and be in that kind of status, but then do nothing in the playoffs, like that's a tough spot to be in. And as I know you pointed out on Monday Football Monday too, you also have to pay CeeDee. You also have to pay Micah Parsons here. Like these are big decisions.
Tyler Biadasz, unlike CeeDee and Micah, Tyler Biadasz, their center, now maybe the best center in the NFC East. No spoiler alerts or anything, but I mean he's a free agent. Like, so you literally have to pay him or else watch him walk, or else and then find a new center. I mean, they're at a point of reckoning, and I'm a big Mike. I was talking to Stats about this, and you will, I think, support me on this. People asked me all offseason for the last 6 months of the last year, do you fire Mike McCarthy if they don't reach the NFC Championship game? And I always said probably not. But like, how do they miss it? Like, do they miss it because of a weird call or a botched field goal or some kind of weird, accident that isn't his fault, or do they get smoked? And like, this is in the like handful of possibilities that existed within, context that you have to ask that question. And I think he's a good coach, and I think he's been really good for them, and I think he's accomplished a lot of things, but like, you simply can, and I think this is going to be a theme of the episode, you cannot run this back. And you can't get rid of Dak for the reasons that we just outlined. You're not getting rid of the GM. Will McClay's returning. So like, the only thing that you can change and adjust, because Dan Quinn's probably going to take a head coaching job and nobody's going to be mad about that. But like, the only thing you can change is Mike McCarthy. But I don't even know what I want. Like, I don't like, do I feel like
you don't want Bill Belichick?
I mean, like, I'm at a place where why not? I mean, like they've tried so many different things, or you know what I mean? Like, why not? Like, how could this be worse? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, maybe you do catch lightning in a bottle, like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, and so, like, screw it at this point. Like, go Jim Harbaugh. Like, I'm not like turning anything down. I don't think some things are as logical as I think other things are, but like, they have no like the benefit of the doubt for their decision making is completely gone.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on how I feel about my reaction if the Cowboys hired Bill Belichick. I've been pretty consistent after, post Brady in that like I've not been I was never in on I know some people were. I think you were. I'm not trying to slander you here, but I'm saying that you and Stats or whoever, I think I remember talking on the SB Nation NFL show, kind of like buying the post Brady Patriots a little bit, being
Oh,
like they signed Hunter Henry and they're gonna
and
do 12
John Smith.
personnel.
Yeah, like I was
And
all
I
in on
actually,
that. Yeah.
thought Mac Jones was going to be decent. So I've been wrong here too. I didn't think he was going to be amazing, but I thought he could be something like of a Kirk Cousins level, and clearly that hasn't borne out. So I was pretty of the mind that Belichick don't really have much interest in him post Brady. That being said, especially looking at how Andy Reid went from Philly to Kansas City, I do think it's fair to wonder if it changes scenery could kind of do him good. And obviously, having a quarterback in place that isn't Mac Jones or nothing settled is a big game changer in a big way. So I'm kind of conflicted on how I feel. I think it's possible the game has passed him by, and it's just he was obviously a great coach, but the time is kind of just not up for him, and it might just be a young man's game now, and maybe the
I
Cowboys would be best served hiring. I don't know that they would get him or whatever or make this move for them. And if they would see that as a lateral kind of move or not worth moving on Mike McCarthy for, but like Ben Johnson or whoever, or Bobby Slowick, your boy,
I don't.
the Texas's true football team, the Houston Texans.
I don't think you can do that just because like the house is on such fire that you need, like I'm not trying to like,
I agree.
I'm not trying to be like an ageist against, Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson, but like they're too young and they're too raw, like
You need
relatively.
credibility if
That's
you're
what I'm
the
saying. Like
Cowboys.
you need somebody who can come in and be the man. And they can't do that yet. Like they certainly obviously have the potential, but like I will say this, and I think maybe you and I both, and maybe like everybody listening on either side of the coin here probably feels the same. Like I'm conflicted on whether or not I want Bill Belichick to be the coach of the Cowboys if they move on from Mike McCarthy, but I definitely start to feel panic if he's the head coach of the Eagles. You know what I'm saying? Like I definitely become worried that
Hmm.
like oh no, like my worst fears will be realized, and like he'll be amazing and he'll resuscitate greatness and like blah 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 blah. So like that's what makes this kind of an interesting offseason in the middle of all the crap for the NFC East, aka the NFC East.
Yeah, it's tough times. I
Um,
will say here on you mentioned Tyler Biadasz earlier. You could speak to this better than I could, but when I look at the Cowboys free agent list, there's a lot of names here who played snaps this season at the very least. Maybe the Cowboys have backup plans. Maybe they're not incredibly vital, but I'm looking at Tony Pollard, Tyron Smith, Stephon Gilmore, Tyler Biadasz, Dorrance Armstrong, Jaron Curse, Jordan Lewis, Jonathan Hankins, Neville Gallimore, and so on and so forth. It's not like, oh no, anyone irreplaceable, but big decisions to make amongst the contract talks we had about already with Dak and CD and Micah going on. And then in addition, I could not, not point this out. Cowboys have no fourth round pick and no fifth round pick until the compensatory range. Cowboys own just 3 of the top 170 picks. The Eagles will make 6 picks before the Cowboys make their 4th pick. So boom.
yeah, good thing they
Suck it.
traded for Trey Lance. That fourth round pick
It
was,
doesn't matter. The Cowboys will find an all pro something at the 7th round pick like they usually do.
but they'll miss on their second round pick because that's
Yes,
who they
correct.
are.
Right.
Anyway, I think we've buried the Cowboys enough as far as what happened on Sunday. Let's move to Monday, and then we can kind of get to long term potential ramifications. It ended. I read your recap at Bleeding Green Nation. Somewhat
Mercifully.
mercifully, yeah, was the word you used. 32-9, the final score. So the Eagles technically were embarrassed worse than the Cowboys.
I'm glad it's over. I really
This,
am.
I mean, I don't know. It was probably representative of like, I know I say this season, but the collapse. Like there was so much quit. I mean, just all over the place, especially from the Eagles defense. Just no fight, no heart. I mean, like whatever other things you want to say. I don't think anybody's disagreeing with this. Um, I mean, truly one of the most failure of a collapses in NFL history, certainly among teams that were 10-1.
The season was over after the Cardinals game. That was pretty clear to me. It should have felt clear to everyone else. You can't blow that and then bounce back from that. It just doesn't work that way. And I took the Eagles to win this game, as you know. Now, I did say every time I did pick them, it's
Well,
not
you
because
were a coward about it. That's
well, I
just be
said I have
straight up.
no belief in them. I made that very clear. I just said that I think the Bucks potentially could be worse, and that wasn't actually, I think, totally off base. And that the Bucks kept the Eagles in this game. This should not have been as competitive as a game. The Bucks had something like 6 drops. They're making Todd Bowles was being conservative early in the game. The Bucks were keeping the Eagles around, and really, I think it was kind of like officially over once Jalen Hurts took that safety. Can't take a safety there. Terrible. And obviously, Jalen Hurts is part of this, but it has to start with Nick Sirianni. It has to, and the coaching staff. It's not a well coached team. You see it, and if these players wanted to save Nick Sirianni and go all out and fight for him, do you think they did that? When Jalen Hurts was asked about Nick Sirianni, I
Oh,
don't know if
this
you
was a
saw
bad.
this
This
in
is
his
also
post game.
this is a lame move from Jalen Hurts. To be clear, like what he said is funny, but it's a lame move from somebody who's supposed to be the face of your franchise, especially when you parse it with what Dak Prescott said about Mike McCarthy after the Cowboys lost.
I think there was an article by Jeff McLean of the Inquirer on Monday that kind of came out, and there was some sources in there questioning Jalen Hurts' leadership, and that was actually a theme he touched on previously when there was, quote, some internal concern, end quote, about Jalen Hurts' his leadership style. And a lot of people have been like, well, that's overblown because he's always been such a great leader to this point. And I get where people say that. At the same time, I don't think we've seen adversity like this before, and how you respond in that circumstance is really important. And it's not that I think Jalen Hurts has no leadership abilities. This is a guy who, as I pointed out, is 25 years old. He's the same exact age, born on the same day as Tommy DeVito. Still young. I want to give him some grace there. But at the same time, I think it's fair to say, yes, he can be better. Why did Jalen Hurts not take the fall for when he
Oh, the
changed the
Seattle
play?
loss.
Yeah, why did AJ Brown have to say that at his locker
Right,
weeks
that's a
later?
good
Why
point.
didn't Jalen Hurts after the game could have been like, "Hey, that was on me"? Because like, who cares if Jalen Hurts says that? Everyone would have been like frustrated at him in the moment, but then it would just blow by. It'd be like,
Didn't
okay,
he? Didn't he even correct me if I'm wrong? Upon being asked about AJ taking the fall or blaming themselves, whatever, didn't Jalen say like, "There's a lot of stuff you don't know"? Like, you know what I
right,
mean? He
exactly.
further like instigated the situation.
Exactly. But certainly, I think what he doesn't say is very telling. And that was very much true in the case of Nick Sirianni when he's asked about his job security and was like, "Oh, I wasn't aware of that." Come on, man. Of course you are. And for him not to say, like, "Yeah, I do want him back." For him to be asked, "Do you believe in Nick Sirianni?" He says, "I believe in everyone in that building." Well, that tells you all you need to know. So, yeah, I definitely, I don't want to leave Jalen Hurts out of this because I think he is obviously part of the problem here. That being said, that's not where you start. Like you're not because you can't. Number one, because you're locked into him contractually. But number two, also because again, he's young. I think he is redeemable still, and can grow and can learn and can be better. I would like to, at the very least, I would like to see the coaching improve. And then if the same issues persist, then I will absolutely be on the bandwagon that he is not the guy. But I would absolutely need to start with the coaching. They've been poorly coached. I don't want to hear how they made the playoffs 3 straight years. That is absolute garbage to me of a reason to keep Nick Sirianni. They got waxed. They were down 31-0 to the Bucks in the wild card round in his first season. They obviously did well to go to the Super Bowl and almost win. Although a big reason why they lost that game isn't just Jonathan Gannon. It's because Nick Sirianni did what we just saw even last night with his job
Oh,
potentially on the line.
this was a horrible thing. And then your tweet about his follow up. And go ahead.
Early in the game when it's clear the Bucks have that first drive and it's like, and the Eagles defense looks as lifeless and hopeless as it's ever been recently. He decides to punt for it on 4th and 2, I think from the 40 yard line, 40 Eagles own 44-yard line. Like, why not just tush push there twice? Instead, punts after the game, says actually it was 4th and 3. He's done that a lot this year, where it's like actually it was a long one, or actually it was 4th and 2 instead of 4th and 1. So miss me with that. And then late in the game, when they're down 2 scores, I think they're down 16 at this point, kicks a field goal. The Bucks bail them out because they have an offside penalty and the Eagles go for it on 4th and 5. They don't get it. But why are you kicking a field goal to make a 2-score game a 2-score game still? Like, it's just so pathetic, dude. It's loser stuff. He doesn't give this team an edge. I'm so done. I'm so done with Nick Sirianni.
So first of all, I have a lot on Nick, but I do think Jalen is skating by a little bit because the coaching's been so bad. Everybody hates Brian Johnson. You talk about this phenomenon a lot. Like people don't hate the person whose jersey they own.
Mhm.
So I mean, and I'm not comparing the two situations, but like relative to Dak, you know what I mean? Like Jalen has been awful. Like, yeah, I mean, he's been a turnover machine this year. Like he wasn't just bad in this game.
He's
Like
been awful this year.
he's been
That's
awful. And dude, the sack he took in this
not
game,
been
or
awful this year.
the
It's more, you have to parse it more through that. He's been
okay,
awful at times.
he's been awful for the most important moments of the season, and he blew a 10-1 record along with everybody else. But the not the sack, the intentional grounding, what should have been the sack. I mean, like what a horrible decision. And like that has happened to him several times. We've talked about the slip he had against San Francisco. Obviously, like there are some key like basic football, you can't do that stuff that he tends to do. And again, my opinion from this vantage point is that I think he's probably a lot lower on people's hit list relative to the Eagles. And again, I understand why everybody's mad at the coaching staff, but I don't think it's fair to just be like, oh, well, Jalen will be the 2022 Jalen once they get better coaches. Like, I think that that's a convenient lie that people are telling to themselves. But
No, it's a big year for him next year. It'll be a very big season for him to prove that. I'm not just merely assuming that. I am hopeful because I've seen him play at a high level in the
but the
biggest
majority
game
of his career has been a low level. Like, I mean, at this point, like that is the significant outlier of his career.
Again, you're talking about a player that was very young and is still developing,
And
potentially can get better. Dak
that's not
Prescott's
just
not
his,
peak. Dak Prescott had a year
but
this
we're
year,
talking
unlike
about
any
Jalen
other
Hurts.
year he had.
Like again, we're talking about like for Jalen Hurts, a significant outlier, not just in his NFL career, but like mostly like his
But he
professional.
needs sure, but he needs to prove it, and he absolutely deserves to. He, based on what he has done, I believe, does get the chance to deserve what he can do moving forward. Unlike Nick Sirianni,
I think
and
I'm not saying he should be higher than Nick Sirianni on the hit list, but I mean, again, I just think he's not catching as much flack as somebody else in
I
his
think
situation.
that's fair. But again, it's just not the place to start with everything. He should be absolutely be considered part of the problem for the time being. I do want to mention in defense of him, he was under pressure in under 2.5 seconds. That is identified as quick pressure by NFL Next Gen Stats. 13 times against the Buccaneers defense. That is tying a career high. The Buccaneers generated 10 unblocked pressures, tied for the most in a game by any NFL defense in the entire 2023 season. That is poor coaching. That is absolutely poor
I agree with
coaching.
You. Multiple things can be true. I'm not acting like he's.
Did you see the screenshot where it's like he's getting blitzed and there's literally just no one in the middle of the field?
No, but
that's a meme. Like, at the same time, it's been true.
It's a thing now. Like it's like he can't beat this. Like he has a very clear kryptonite, and whether that's his coaching staff weighing him down, obviously, is something that remains to be seen. If the Eagles do move on from Sirianni and
help him out,
I know.
No
I want to get
to they're helping him.
I want to get to all this, but I want to read a tweet really quickly from John Clark. This was before the game. I'm told the main message from Nick Sirianni in last night's Eagles team meeting was just like his message all week long: get back to being a physical and violent team.
Okay.
I'm told in the team hotel, when the Cowboys got blown out, the Eagles were hyped and it lit a fire in them. Like this team to me, and this stems from Sirianni.
Not true.
This team, and this stems from Sirianni to me, so badly wants to be like an NFL Films highlight, like so badly wants to be legendary, and came very, very, very close to it. I mean, like as close as you can possibly come. And they have been chasing that high like this entire season. Sirianni has made his own bet. Like, I mean, everybody except for Eagles fans has been out for this dude from, I would say, basically the jump. And now, I mean, he has nobody to blame for himself. And like we talk about proving narratives right. Nick Sirianni had all season long to save the Eagles. I mean, he built a team that had a 10-1 record. And then when it came down to like, hey, you got to do something yourself, it was like, oh man, dude, Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon carried you. Like this dude absolutely fell apart and the team fell in line behind him.
I think the talent is really ultimately what carried him. And I say that as someone who has been a long time skeptic and critic of Howie Roseman. But I really think that's what this has been about. I think, they got to where they did. They won as much as they did this year, in part because the talent was just great and very good. And that actually still leaves me optimistic about this team's outlook moving forward. I still think that they obviously have work to do, especially on defense. I'm not saying the roster is flawless. And Howie Roseman needs to be better. He's part of the problem too. Again, not the problem at this stage. So I think if you have a good offseason, that's on the table. I've seen Howie do that before, and you can push the right buttons coaching wise, then I think this is very much a division that could see another repeat winner, as it usually does each year. So, yeah, I think the talent is somewhat there for them to work with moving forward. And I think the talent was there for Sirianni, and I think he got less out of more. And that's not what coaching is about. You need to get more out of less.
He does not provide an edge. He doesn't help the team in any way, shape, or form. And again, as I've been talking about for months now, all he did was put a target on their back by, pounding his chest and writing checks for all of them to cash. And he caught up to them. And they, like I said, had they won the Super Bowl last year, he would have been maybe the most annoying person in my NFL fandom for like the future of time. Like, because he would have had every right to be. You know what I mean? But he fell apart.
Well, they didn't win it in no small part because of him.
Okay, so throw us to break, Brandon. Throw us, but like a good throw. Ready? That was so gross. Looked like Jalen Hurts threw that. Welcome back, BLG.
The New York Football Giants are looking for a
Are we really going to do this? Are we going to talk about them?
Defensive coordinator.
I don't think we have to spend too much time on this.
That's all.
Well, there's also the weird report that Brian Dable's like a jerk and screams at them. I mean,
wow, is that a weird report, or is that
I'm not trying to minimize
on the sideline when he's throwing the tablet at Daniel Jones?
The Commanders have a new general manager. Do you want to touch on this at all? I mean,
one quick thing on the Giants before the Commanders is that I think it's funny that the Giants have been requesting interviews for special teams coordinators that are already special teams coordinators around the league, and they've been denied 3 times. It's like, maybe you can't just take another team's special teams coordinator. On the Commanders, yeah, the Adam Peters tweet, very bizarre that he is already somehow one of the best in the biz. Even though what has he done? I do not know. I certainly think it's a worthwhile hire by the Commanders. Is this the first episode we've done since they hired him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like formally, like they've formally announced it and everything. And it does kind of seem like Ben Johnson is the favorite to become their head coach. Obviously, the Lions are still involved. That would suck a lot. I mean, I would be worried.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Agree. Totally. I mean, he could. I was joking with you. Not so much joking. We were discussing off air who's the NFC East All-Star head coach this year going into this season. And, certainly we'll need to see what happens with McCarthy and Sirianni. But, isn't there a situation where, I don't know, those guys are, let's say they're both back and the Commanders hired Ben Johnson. Are we really putting them over Ben Johnson? I mean, the upside obviously isn't proving it as a head coach, but the upside there.
If McCarthy and Sirianni are back, first of all, I don't know that you and I have the emotional energy to continue doing the mixtape, but I mean, I think it's probably McCarthy. He has the most recent division title. He has the most division titles. I mean, you
don't feel good about it.
No, I don't feel good about it at all. Well, so okay, again, I don't mean to disrespect purposefully the Giants and Commanders, but everything kind of hinges on the Cowboys and Eagles right now. Like a lot of the NFL does. I mean, so my main question is, pick one that is the most likely. Both Mike McCarthy and Nick Sirianni are out. Only Mike McCarthy is out. Only Nick Sirianni is out. Neither are out. Of those 4 options, what do you think is the most likely?
I think the most unlikely is they're both back. I think we can agree on that. The most likely.
Or who do you think? Okay, let's kind of go in ascending order. I know that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I was going to try to rank them.
Who's more likely to be gone, McCarthy or Sirianni? I think it's McCarthy, personally.
Ooh, I disagree. I think it's Sirianni.
But I mean, Sirianni does have the again, I've been a playoff team 3 years in a row. We were 10-1. I know it does, but he has that. I mean, they both
has what? What did they do? What are you gonna do? Hang a banner for getting blown out by the Bucs in the playoff 2 out of 3 years? That's why is that an accomplishment? People talk about that like that's an accomplishment. It's not an accomplishment to get blown out by the Buccaneers.
So I think you're being unfair in the sense of the first Buccaneers loss was not to the Baker Mayfield Bucs. Let's be clear. That they were the defending world champion Bucs at that point in time. That was a really good Bucs team. that they
I
got
think the
smoked by.
Eagles were only like 3-point underdogs in that game. Like they were not huge. They were rolling at that point. They were not huge
They were much
underdogs.
better than, like, if you want to come at them for Monday's loss, by all means. But like my point is, like, the first loss is nowhere near as
The
embarrassing.
Bucks were
That's all I'm saying.
better, but you still went down 31-0. Like again, you were never competitive. You didn't even make it a game early on. Like
And
did
I guess,
nothing.
like, the thing that is a further support of your argument, I think, is you only made the playoffs as the 7 seed in the first
Exactly.
year of it being of it being in
Right.
existence. So that's a better argument, not the, like, you got smoked by the Bucks thing. But again, I mean, he's been to a Super Bowl with his team, where Mike McCarthy hasn't, with the Cowboys at least. And again, I think why Mike McCarthy is also more likely is Mike McCarthy's now 1-3 in playoff games as the Cowboys head coach. And he's been to the divisional round once before. Yes, that's true. But you could also make an argument. I don't think this is fair, but like, we're at a point where, like, some unfair things are going to get said and you don't have a way to refute them. Your one playoff win was against a below 500 Bucks team. Like, shout out to the
Right.
Bucks for being such a common denominator in all this. So, like, okay, cool. Yeah, they had Tom Brady at quarterback, but they were below 500. And yeah, you smoked them. But, like, you can really make this look worse without moving a lot of goalposts. And so beyond all of that, like, cool, even if you had beaten an amazing team, you've been to the divisional round once, but Jason Garrett got to the divisional round. He got there twice. And no, he got there 3 times. Excuse me. He got to the he got there 3 different times, Jason Garrett. So, like, you were supposed to be the difference. Like, you were supposed to be the guy that got through that barrier, and you haven't yet. So that's why I'm saying, like, because, again, I'm not saying teams are loftier or whatever, but, like, because that was the expectation, and he has failed to do that. 1 playoff win in 3 years. Forget the divisional round stuff. I mean, I think Mike McCarthy is more likely in that sense.
I was listening to an NFC East Mixtape episode, the preview show for that Eagles-Bucks game, and that what was it, Cowboys 49ers game in the wild card round that year.
Oh, 2 years
in
ago.
part because 2 years ago, because I remember we had said something about we obviously are going to make the NFC East final standings, the division order for the podcast in which we go in. But we did say something. We added a corollary to that, like if one
Like, if
team, I
one
think,
team,
advances
like, if
beyond the round,
yeah, that makes sense. Like, if the Eagles
which
in that case had won their playoff game, even though they didn't win the division, maybe they earned the right to go first in the
I was
offseason.
going to propose we split if the Eagles had won the wild card game. Like we split the order for throughout the season. Obviously, if a team, like, imagine like a team winning the division, but then the other team winning the Super Bowl, which I guess is what happened to the Giants in the past. Like, you're
When the
obviously
Cowboys
not going to
won it.
talk about, huh?
The Cowboys won it the first time,
Right.
but the
That's
Giants
like
did win.
that's
They did. I'm
literally
just
the
saying.
most hollow division championship you could
Well,
possibly have.
they did win it in 2011, and also Mike McCarthy's Packers were a wild card team. The Bears, which Jay Cutler won the NFC North that year.
So in that circumstance, I got in the weeds there about the podcast workings, but in any case, yeah, I was listening to that podcast, and you said in that podcast, they hired Mike McCarthy to get beyond the divisional round, and they're not even getting to the divisional round here. So, that was 2 years ago.
And that was, so the Cowboys have lost their last 2 home playoff games. Obviously, the only 2 home ones that Mike McCarthy's been the head coach over. And this isn't really their fault, but in both of those instances, this year included, obviously, they were the only home team to lose across the
relevant.
entire wild
That's
card.
absolutely relevant. It's not like, a weird stat. No, it shows you should win.
So, like, we're talking about the 2021 Super Wild Card round, and 2023 Super Wild Card round. So combined, those are 12 games, 2 of which belong to the Cowboys. So you're talking about the only 2 losses of those 12 games were by you. And they were not against the same team or even a division rival that you can make an argument like knows you. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. And again, granted, they were against very good coaches and Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur and talented quarterbacks and Jimmy Garoppolo and Jordan Love in different ways. No, I mean, that's why I'm saying I do think Mike McCarthy is more likely to get.
And you had built up a home field advantage, like, credibly. It's not like this is the Chargers, who don't actually have, it's not a team that doesn't actually have a true home fan base, and the stadium gets taken over by other fans, although that has happened to the Cowboys in the past with the 49ers or something like that. But that's not the case here. So yeah, it's unacceptable. There's really, again, that's what it comes down to for the Cowboys end of it.
So do you agree,
no
Mike?
Excuse.
Do you think McCarthy's more likely then? Maybe you want Sirianni fired, but
I don't, because, well, Jerry Jones better than I do. That's the reality. But my thing is that maybe the Cowboys can just talk themselves into because if you want to, you're trying to play devil's advocate with the Sirianni Super Bowl thing. Cowboys have what, like the third most wins in the past 3 years.
Second.
So maybe they're like, hey, we like our chances. We're going to get back again. We think we can be a really successful regular season team, and we'll be back here and we'll get better luck next time. I don't. Maybe they talk themselves into that, and maybe
So
I don't. And also, does
I'm sorry.
Belichick want to go to Dallas? Because I don't know. I don't know Jerry Jones as well as you do. I don't know the relationship that Jerry Jones has with Bill Belichick. I saw something that it's good, but okay, it just doesn't seem naturally to blend to me that Belichick wants to be with an owner who goes out and talks to the media nonstop. Like I don't see that as a natural fit.
It's so funny to me that we're both using like all these things that are technically in support, in support of the other team as like, no, keep your bad head coach. Like, no, like you got to do it. Look,
should I'm saying I think they will.
That's what I'm saying. Like we're both trying to manifest it because like we talk all the, or you bring up all the time about like how would your opponent feel? Like I'd be pumped if the Eagles kept Nick Sirianni. You would be pumped if the Cowboys kept Mike McCarthy. So maybe the most likely thing is that they're both gone. So let's live in that reality, like for either situation. And this could get dated very quickly, which would really suck for content's sake. But presuming it doesn't, presuming by launch time on Wednesday, both Sirianni and McCarthy are still in place. If they're both or each or whoever is dismissed, who do you want to be the next Philadelphia Eagles coach? Call your shot right now.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I know.
It's tough because I think the problem with saying someone like a Ben Johnson, sure, I don't think they're going to be able to get him. I don't know if that's the right kind of hire for where the Eagles are. This isn't the situation the Eagles were in 2020. This is different. This isn't like, hey, you're resetting. You're getting a new head coach. I think this is about looking at the roster. You're ready to win. You have a quarterback in place. When the Eagles are making, coaching hire in 2016 with Nick Sirianni, they didn't have like a definitive quarterback in place. They have that now. Obviously, you can debate how good Jalen Hurts is, but he's undeniably this team's answer for at least 2024. So I think I wonder, on one hand, Jeffrey Lurie loves offensive innovation. He has to be jealous looking at Bobby Slowick and Ben Johnson, seeing that and wanting that. At the same time, it just feels like maybe you go for a retread. Maybe you go someone who's kind of proven it at some level before and feel like you can hit the ground running with this guy. There aren't going to be growing pains. You're just going to instantly succeed. So, and also, yeah, I think the Belichick thing is absolutely in play, considering that Jeffrey Lurie wanted to hire Josh McDaniels before he hired Nick Sirianni, or at least there was like consideration that Josh McDaniels was going to be the guy. He hired Matt Patricia, or at least oversaw a coaching staff that someone hired Matt Patricia. He brought him in the building. Jeffrey Lurie's from Boston. He is actually close personal friends with Robert Kraft. That's who he lost out on bidding with, I think, to buy the New England Patriots. So there's a connection there. There's a relationship there. I could see that. I could see Jeffrey Lurie. And also, again, what I talked about with the Andy Reid thing earlier, I think Jeffrey Lurie could sell himself on this is going to be like Andy going to KC. Like all Bill needs is a fresh start here, and we can get this thing going fast. So I do think that's in play. What do I prefer? It's so tough because I think Mike Vrabel's a really good coach, but I don't think he's going to come here. I don't think it's a fit. And I don't love a defensive coach with the idea that the offensive coordinator could leave, and then you're having a lot of the same issues that the Eagles have had with their offensive coordinators leaving. So I guess at the end of the day, I kind of just screw it. Give me like Ben Johnson. Give me Bobby Slowick. Give me the guy who could be like hopefully a less cowardly version of Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan.
I guess we're on opposite ends of kind of, I don't want to say the spectrum, but like wants, wishes, or hopes. I mean, because I can't tell you like how what you want is wrong. I think what I want at this point is like, I mean, why not? Like, for me, like Bill Belichick is like 1A, because like, I mean, it's easy to like talk yourself into that, right? Like I'm in like Coke Town, you know what I mean? Like I need anything, like, and if you can't do it with Bill Belichick, like then like you really are cursed. You know what I'm saying?
You did say the Cowboys don't deserve to be an NFL team.
Yeah, I mean, I said that a lot. It's like a thing of mine, but so like Bill is like 1A for me, and I would say Jim Harbaugh's like 1B, because at this point, again, it's like, dudes, we talked about this like the other day. Like dude has won everywhere. Like, I mean, and Mike McCarthy's won a lot, to be clear. But like I want someone with some attitude. It's like you got to have somebody who like commands the room at this point in time. And I don't know that Belichick or Harbaugh commanded in like a charming way, but they certainly commanded in like a respect way. And so again, if it can't happen with him, then it's you. Like you're the problem. So I would say a close, like Harbaugh's just a little bit behind Belichick for me in terms of preference list. There's a teeny bit bigger gap, but a bigger gap nonetheless before Mike Vrabel. He's my third option. Again, I want some like attitude. I want some like rough and tough. I want a badass. You know what I mean? Like to come in and ruffle some feathers. So I'm not saying Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick aren't that, but like I want somebody I want someone who's going to scare people. You know what I mean? Like I'm tired of this. I'm tired of being soft and frauds. Like it's frustrating.
I think I would be most concerned about Harbaugh. I like Harbaugh a lot. I think there's definitely volatility there. There's definitely like blow up potential clearly with him, and not even just because like instant blow up, you're going to go 0-17. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're probably going to have success, but it could just easily be like 2 years, 3 years, and then done. Like he's just done, or he's flaming out.
It'd be worth it if he comes in and wins the Super Bowl. Like I'm cool for a little while.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm just saying like I'm worried against that because in a perfect world, you're not making a head coach for that kind of or hire for that kind of reason. In theory, you're shooting for having like the next Andy Reid or the next Mike Tomlin or like whatever. You're shooting, you're aspiring to that, to have that guy who's there for a long time. So I think I'd be most concerned about Harbaugh. I think he kind of maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're going to call me out on it. I feel like his 49ers tenure was underrated somehow. I feel like he doesn't get enough credit.
I completely agree.
He was really good.
Dude, I mean, I don't know that anybody looks at Jim and says like he's an offensive innovator. You know what I mean? Like the way that like some people get the label, but like nobody liked Alex Smith. Alex Smith was horrible. Like Alex Smith was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, like one of the all-time biggest draft busts. Jim Harbaugh shows up elite. And something I don't think he gets enough credit for is the decision to go to Colin Kaepernick when he did midway through the 2012 season. Like he said, "Oh, this dude, Alex Smith, it took because at the time it's like, by the way, the Niners Super Bowl drought is longer than the Cowboys. Like again, doesn't get said enough
for now,
but it's true. But at the time, you're talking the 2012 season. It had been 18 years since the Niners last. And obviously it's been longer now. But like, they were coming off of an NFC Championship game appearance in 2012, and that they, granted lost, which was super stupid. I mean, again, Giants were so lucky. But anyway, like the audacity to bench Alex Smith, you know what I mean? And then, and he wasn't just proven right, like he was proven extraordinarily right. Like Colin Kaepernick was a monster and like changed the NFL. And like he managed all that. Like, I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, he went to back NFC Championship games. And the only 2 times he lost, the first time was a little bit fluky, obviously, against the Giants, but they did win the Super Bowl. And the other time he lost was literally against one of the greatest defenses to ever be assembled, that happened to go destroy one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game in Peyton Manning. So, yeah, I'm totally with you.
And then I put Harbaugh in terms of what I wouldn't want to see for the Cowboys. Harbaugh 1, Vrabel 2. I like Vrabel a lot. And then I would go Belichick 3.
See, I guess we are kind of, it makes sense that you would want the young offensive hot shots because Ben Johnson is my number one fear. Because like what I'm afraid of is that like they're going to get whatever Shane Steichen had going on back. And, the offense is going to return to like stupid perennial monster force level. So Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick are probably 1 and 2. I don't know who would be 3 in that capacity. I mean, there's not real, juice behind like a third offensive name. But I mean, if either one of those happened, I'd be bummed, to say the least.
I got distracted here when you were talking earlier because I've been trying to check Twitter because we need to. This time, especially waking up to see news that Jason Kelce retired. I guess we should probably talk about that. But I saw the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm wearing a Phillies hat for the audio listeners. They had a prospect that they could have signed, and they didn't sign them. I'm not really seeing the full context of what this is all about, but this prospect's name was Iverson Allen.
That's awesome. Okay, the Jason Kelce thing. I don't have a lot to say. One of my worst takes ever was a long time ago. One I've atoned for that he wasn't a Hall of Famer. Dude's amazing. I mean, and he's a.
You said he was overrated. He was the most overrated player from a couple of years ago on the NFC East All Overrated.
I do think that would be correct now because
wasn't it correct? He's a Hall of Famer.
Because like the Kelsey brand has just skyrocketed. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I'm saying.
I think he's overrated. You could be oversaturated, maybe.
Yeah. But I don't know that I could even count to 5 Eagles that I greatly respect. And Jason Kelsey is probably number 1 on that list. Like, did it the right way, super likable, really funny, and had the sports career that I think anybody would dream of, where you deliver the first world championship to like an incredibly rabid, starving, sports obsessed city. He's the proverbial never has to buy a drink in that town type of dude. Like, I don't mean screw Nick Foles, but like, build Jason Kelsey a statue. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of dude who deserves
one. Jason Kelsey's speech, his Super Bowl parade speech on the art steps, Philadelphia Museum of Art, the steps there, that makes me cry when I watch that. Like, that is because it's just everyone I think knows that feeling in life at some level of just kind of just being that person who was counted out, or even like just doubting yourself, like just never feeling like you're ever gonna like break through, you're never gonna do this thing. And because that's how it felt like. I'm getting like emotional, welling up thinking about this. Because I legitimately, fundamentally believed, as maybe as silly as it was, clearly now in hindsight, that the Eagles were never going to win the Super Bowl because they'd never done it. It'd been 50 whatever years since the Super Bowl existed. I was just like, they're never going to do it. They're never going to do it. I saw them lose the Super Bowl when I was young. It was devastating. I was just like, they're never going to do this. It's never going to happen. And then I did it, and I was actually there for it. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw the confetti drop onto the field. And for Jason Kelsey to have that speech, and for it to be that team, which was so improbable, obviously with Nick Foles and everything. Jason Kelsey himself, incredibly improbable career as a 6th-round pick, who's like one of the smallest centers to ever play. Just like such a unique player and athlete. It's been an incredible career for him. He's been awesome. I am sure he will not be going far in terms of podcast and whatever else he's going to do after this. So he's awesome. He's a legend. And, like people talk about, what Eagles jersey should I get? I mean, just get a Jason Kelsey. It's pretty easy. Just get a Jason Kelsey jersey.
I don't mean to take away from him at all with this, but like, I think he benefits from how much of a team effort the Eagles Super Bowl win was. Like, like you look at the Super Bowls the Chiefs have won as example, like it's like, oh, what jersey should I get? It's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes, you know what I mean? Or Travis Kelsey, right? Like one of the skill players. Like there isn't really that person, you know what I mean? Like maybe you got Nick Foles, but that was kind of like a very, very small, moment. I mean, and the most important one that there possibly could be. You know what I'm saying? But like, does anybody have an Alshon Jeffrey jersey or a Torrey Smith jersey or a Jay Ajayi? You know what I mean?
People have Ertz jerseys.
No, but I guess Zach Ertz is a great example too. But like Kelsey is like the face. Like he really is like the face of like the success that the Eagles have had in this run, where like a quarterback would normally be that, or like a skill position player would be that. Like the weirdness of it all. I don't want to call it weirdness because that implies it's bad. It's really successful. The uniqueness of it all allows to where Jason Kelsey is the face, and even the like. I know they lost the Super Bowl, but like the tush push, you know what I mean? It was everything has kind of like existed around his orbit. Like he's the sun that the whole like solar system of the Eagles has kind of floated around.
He's their greatest draft steal of all time, bar none. Took him in the 6th round. To have a Hall of Famer like that, who, I mean, he could honestly, if he wanted to, he could probably keep playing next year and be all pro again because he was all pro this year. Like, and he hasn't shown signs of slowing down, so he could probably even play more if he wanted to. And but he doesn't need to. Obviously, he shouldn't because he's had a long, fantastic career and he's battled through injuries and he's considered retirement. Honestly, dating back to like the 2018 season, so we're talking about 5 years now. But great player and will be sorely missed. The Eagles have Cam Jurgens in the pipeline. That's probably going to be Jason Kelsey's replacement. But I mean, I don't care how good Cam Jurgens is. It's just that's not Jason Kelsey.
A proper tribute. I know Bleeding Green Nation will, of course, visit the Kelsey career in the offseason when the stink of the season wears off and maybe the fallout from the new head coach and all that stuff kind of fades. He certainly deserves it. I'm with you.
Maybe like Jason Kelsey is the new head coach.
Ooh, like Greg Olson.
He doesn't want to do that. Zero chance. And also, he doesn't need to do that. The hours that go into coaching, like no chance.
Dude, people used to say all the time, like, I don't know why Tony Romo won't go be the offensive coordinator, blah, blah, blah.
It's like, sucks. And you get paid. You know what coaches get paid? They get paid like a head coach probably gets a head coach gets paid like $6 million or so. I don't know, somewhere around there. An offensive coordinator's average salary is $1 million. Like they get paid nothing
I mean,
compared to being on TV for
you
what's
and
his TV deal? Like multi
well,
180
oh yeah,
million,
Romo's.
whatever.
But like you mentioned, Kelsey, like he'll obviously keep doing the podcast. I imagine we're probably gonna get some like maybe not live shows, but like maybe some like Kansas City shows, obviously with Travis. And he did the when the Eagles played the Vikings. Was it on Thursday? Who they play on Thursday Night Football this year?
Well, it wasn't when they played on Thursday Night
Oh, you're
Football.
right. Who? But
You,
it was. I'm
you
sorry.
can't do it during the game.
My bad. My bad. Okay. The Eagles bye week. I don't know who. I don't remember who was playing.
I
But
forget. I didn't watch this, but he was. I know he was on the Amazon
he
broadcast.
yeah, he was on the broadcast for like whatever it was, like the third quarter, and they were promoting the documentary. Obviously, that's on Amazon. Like
Mm-hmm.
he feels destined for Amazon Prime. So to your point, it's like, hey, go make like relative to what you've made throughout your career, like not that much. Or go make that and maybe a little bit more, just like traveling the country and being chill and
Mm-hmm.
bring your family with you, like, and do your
Yep.
podcast. Like, it's not a competition. So,
Yep.
okay. Let's get to songs. Rachel's is, really purposeful. Let's see here. Let me pull it up. She said, my song is Starts with Goodbye by Carrie Underwood. Speaking of Tony Romo, talks about a painful but necessary goodbye, marking the end of a relationship and the start of healing. I think that's where we're at with the Eagles organization and need for some big changes this offseason, especially with the coaching staff.
She was
at, not Rachel, sorry, Carrie Underwood was at the Brian Westbrook game, if you recall.
The one where he slid, you're talking about?
Yeah. RJ Ochoa was there too. Yeah.
Okay. I play that. People, I feel like.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was Jessica Simpson. No, I'm sorry.
I was going to say,
yeah, Carrie was
sound right.
That all blurred together for me.
Wow,
but
very unbecoming of you. I'm going to go with a song I listened to pretty much either the night of the Eagles season ending or the day after every single year. This is a tradition I have because I don't know, something about it just helps me feel like I am unwinding. And it is a song from the season 2 finale closing montage of The Wire. It is Feel All Right by Steve Earle. There's a line in the song that goes, the chorus, it's like, I feel all right tonight. But the context is he's kind of saying it sarcastically. But at the same time, you're like, well, what else am I going to say? Because I'm still going on. Like, Eagle season's over. It sucks, but what am I going to say? I'm devastated. I'm just going to refuse to go on. I mean, I guess I could say that, but it's not really the choice I think I'm going to make or going to be best served making. So I feel all right tonight. Feel all right by Steve Earle.
Okay. Good choice. I've never seen The Wire. It's one of the few things that I haven't seen. I really want to watch a few different shows that I haven't seen. Like I've never seen The Sopranos. So need to attack that this offseason.
You know what I watched recently? John Wick, the John Wick movies, because they just put them on Netflix. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. First one was like, okay, but the other ones are actually really good. So I like them a lot. Shout out to Keanu Reeves.
By the way, I'm looking at just some tweets. I guarantee you the national media is a little bit bummed that the Cowboys and Eagles had their embarrassing playoff exits back-to-back days. They're probably like, oh, man, like it would have been great if like the Eagles had won and then collapsed. Like we could have gotten the week out of like crushing the Cowboys and then the week out of crushing the Eagles. So, now it's just who had the bigger collapse. My song, again, trying to manifest things. This is the reverse way I recognize it. Bill Belichick, obviously coming from the New England Patriots. My song is Boston. I don't know if it's Augustina or Augustana, but it's a good little melody. So Boston is my choice.
Boston also a band.
That's true. I was gonna go I'm shipping up to Boston, but that felt like too much. So
and you're not doing that, right?
No,
you're
and I hope Bill's not.
Boston.
No, I've been there once. It was cool. I mean, yeah, best place on the East Coast.
My friend Alex, who's a big Lions fan, contributes to Pride of Detroit. He lives in Boston for the time being. He's going to be moving back to Michigan at some point. But how about that? I'm happy for the Lions. Usually, a lot of times, I don't really care when other teams, like the hard-suffering teams, win because, like, okay, I can understand conceptually this is cool for them, but I actually don't really care. It's having known more Lions people in my life probably impacts me between Alex and somebody I know,
Golden
Jeremy
Tate.
obviously too. Golden Tate definitely in there. I mean, it's pretty cool for them to not have a playoff win, and also like I'm around that age. I was born in October 91. This was their last playoff win was what, January 92. Like trying to put myself in that situation. That's like seeing the Lions fans crying in the stands. People around like who looked around my age. I mean, that is pretty cool. I'm happy they got a win. Good for them.
I agree. Very cool scene. It was difficult to enjoy because I was still in the aftermath of the Cowboys
Sure.
loss.
I
But
hope
very,
the
very
Lions win
cool.
the Super Bowl. Honestly,
That's gonna be my
can
last
we agree on
question.
that?
No. So like a lot of Cowboys fans disagree with me. I'm not like a DFW person. So I recognize some people don't feel this way. We've talked about this before, but like I'm kind of in on the Texans. By the way, who were my
Yeah,
lock of the week last week
you're
when I
right.
beat your lock of the week.
Good job by you.
So I'm cool that I have 3 teams that I'm like most cool with: Texans, Ravens, Bills. Any one of
Let's
them
make some
win,
picks. Why not? Why don't we? Because there's whatever so many games left, and we usually make picks anyway. There aren't any
well,
picks to make.
we're literally on another show where that's the whole point of it. But if you want to spoil that, that's up
Yeah,
to
but
you.
not everyone listens to that show.
Okay, let's just make these picks then. Ravens hosting the Texans on Saturday. Baltimore
Ravens
9-point
win.
favorites. 9-point favorites. So you laying that?
I'll take the Ravens to cover and win.
I mean, I'm here. I'm going to take the Texans. Let's do it
Yep.
because it would give you some fuel. It would make you feel better for Lamar Jackson to fail. So
Yes,
yeah.
I will be betting the Ravens money line in the hopes that they lose.
The Niners are 9.5-point favorites at home against the Packers.
I'm just kind of kidding about that. Maybe not. Packers are going to cover. No,
Yeah, this is going to
no,
be
they're
a
not.
this is going to
Actually,
be a
no.
this is going to be a
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan masterclass. Like this is going to be like
49ers
40,
got it.
45-10. Like it's going to be
Yeah.
insane. The Bucks in Detroit Sunday afternoon. Excuse
Lions
me. They're 6-point
cover.
favorites.
Bucks aren't good, man. Like I know they just like destroyed the Eagles, but again, they kept the Eagles in that game longer than they should have. Also, the Lions destroyed the Buccaneers in Tampa earlier this year. I think that matchup just is good for them.
I'm with you. I mean, because I think the Lions are going to win. I would rather see them host the Packers in the title game. Like, I'm more interested in that game than I am the Lions going to San Francisco.
Sure.
Just because it would be kind of cool for the Lions to beat the Packers to go to the Super Bowl for the first time ever. Like that would be, if they're going to go, like I want it to be like the coolest possible story. So like that would be awesome.
Well, the Lions missed their window to have like a really dream scenario with the Eagles winning, and then they get to torch Matt Patricia's defense to go to the NFC Championship game. Are you kidding me? That's like a fan fiction scenario.
I don't think they care as much about the Eagles or Matt Patricia because like if the Packers go beat the Niners, everyone will pick them in the title game, right? It'll be like, oh man, the Packers rolled through the Cowboys, rolled through the Niners. These little Lions are going to stand in their way. And like if anyone has owned the Lions for literally 30 years, it's the whole drought. You know what I mean? It's been the Packers. Like that would be kind of cool. So that would be sweet.
And then we have the Chiefs in Buffalo. Bills are 2.5 favorites.
2.5, 2.5.
2.5.
I think the Bills get it done. I think they finally beat the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And because they've been kind of begging for this moment since 13 seconds. And I trust most good teams who like beg for a moment to capitalize on it, unlike the Dallas Cowboys. So I've got Bills, Texans, and Lions and Niners. You've just got Bills, Ravens, right? That's the difference.
Yeah. This is also Mahomes' first road playoff game, right?
It is. And I also saw, I don't know who tweeted this, so apologies. It's his first visit to Buffalo with fans because the only time he visited it was in 2020 when there were limited fans, obviously. So he's never visited Orchard Park with like a full raucous, Bills Mafia. So
there you go.
It's properly the final game of the week. Like this, I want it to be epic. So hopefully it is.
That Eagles-Bills game, the overtime win for the Eagles, will go down as like that was the beginning of the Bills' ascension the rest of the season. I think I'm predicting the Bills to ultimately win the Super Bowl, and that'll go down as the Eagles' demise. So there you go.
See, like I kind of don't want the Bills to win the Super Bowl because I don't want people to be like, "Well, the Eagles beat them." So yeah,
I don't think anyone will care about that, honestly. And I'm not saying it because of that. I just think that sometimes you need a loss. Not that you don't need it, but sometimes a loss like that can serve as a turning point, I feel like, and that seems to have done it for them.
Let's get out of here. As we do, tell us anything you want.
I love the listeners.
Very true. Shout out mixologist.